Hey, this is Ben, letting you know that for this month's trailer, we're going to give you the Gaggony Guncles segment instead of the traditional beginning of the episode. Hopefully, a little something different that makes you want to check out these segments every month, and you could subscribe to the full edition of the monthly show Extra Bad Gays by clicking the little subscribe button right there in Apple, or by visiting patreon.com/badgayspod. Should we move on to the Gaggony Guncles?
Yes, let's go with that.
We end our episode as usual with our Gaggony Guncles advice segment. And today we have a question from insufficiently tortured transfag. And it's a two-parter. So let's do part one first, or do you want to take both parts together?
As the actress said to the bishop, I'll take both parts together.
Let's take both parts together. So here we go. I'm reading our lovely question here. Dearest Gaggony Guncles, I write to you from the beautiful neighborhood of a mid-sized city with a mid-sized queer community. Ooh, she's regional. A few months back, I broke up with my ex-boyfriend of about 3 years. Pre-breakup, we had become active participants in the local gay leather scene. We both had a lot of fun, but since he was always more outgoing and social than I am, he formed some close friendships with club leadership and has gotten involved in event organizing. Our breakup wasn't particularly friendly, and we haven't seen each other since, which in my case has meant stepping back from the events because my ex is very likely to be there. However, removing myself from that scene has also meant that it's harder for me to meet guys who are interested in the same kinds of sex that I am. Showing up somewhere I know he'll be seems like a way for both of us to have a bad evening, but there's only the one leather bar in this city, and the mostly vanilla grinder hookups just aren't quite cutting it for me. Short of fleeing this city to find the sadistic dom-top daddy of my dreams, do you have any advice for navigating and/or cruising a slightly cramped gay social scene that has an ex right in the middle of everything? On a related note, now that I'm single again, I'll be going to kink spaces on my own for pretty much the first time, which feels quite different from going as part of a couple. This is especially a thing for me because I was the first trans man to join the local leather club, and having a cis boyfriend with me definitely felt like a bit of a shield, alongside very supportive organizers. Is there anything I should know about what can be different about going to these kinds of events and spaces as a single guy instead of with a partner? Thanks, insufficiently tortured transfag.
Oh, what a difficult situation to find yourself in. That must be really frustrating. I can really feel that. I guess the first issue is you say there wasn't a particularly friendly breakup. The question, I guess, would be how hostile are they, or is the relationship? To what degree could you talk about these things sort of in an open, adult way and explain this to them? And it might well be, and it seems to be because you're writing this email, that might not be possible. So my suggestion, I think, would probably be to go to someone else within these organizations or who are running these nights who you do feel you can approach, and to word it in the way you kind of worded it here, which is very sensitive and thoughtful. It's not aggressive. You're not like bitter about this person being there. You might just say, like, I would like to attend, but I feel a bit, awkward about this. And is there a way that, they could help facilitate that? Because it might be that, you could share, this person could have start a dialogue as a sort of intermediary and try and sort of work out some sort of system whereby if one of you is going, the other person is aware and decides not to go. What do you think about that, Ben?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think I completely understand the position that you're in. And I think the fact that you're trans and you're in a scene that it sounds like is pretty overwhelmingly cis, or was pretty overwhelmingly or even universally cis until you showed up, maybe adds a little bit to this feeling. But I think if you were with this person for some time and you were getting involved in these events, even if your then boyfriend ended up like being more involved with like organizing and stuff, these organizers and these people who you know and these people who you say were really welcoming of you and really supportive of you, like, these are your contacts too, right? These are your friends too, and these are your spaces too. And you shouldn't let this guy keep you out of them forever. And the one thing that I'll say is that, as opposed, I think, to straight people, where there's enough of them that if you don't ever want to see your ex again, you never have to. I think gay guys, trans or cis, often we'll have richer and more enjoyable lives if we're able to accidentally, how can I put this, come upon our ex being come upon? You know,
Yeah, I
like,
mean, it
and I don't want to encourage you to insert yourself into a situation where you feel like you are going to be physically or psychologically harmed by being there. And I don't want to be Dr. Laura and say, get over it. No. But I do think that it's worth trying to address this. And I think, Hugh, your idea of speaking to these organizers is exactly where I was going to start. Reach out, tell them how you're feeling, see what's up. If this guy is co-organizing some of them, maybe one of them knows about a vacation he's taking and you could go for the first time there. And then I think the more that you make new contacts, the more that you start to build up friendships of your own inside this scene, the more that you will then be able to attend potentially one of these events sometime in the future at a time when your ex is there, because you won't feel like, oh God, I'm going to be standing there all alone in the corner. You're going to have your own friends that you're there going with, right? And you're
Mhm.
tending with an in community, and that will make it more interesting and more possible. I think
And I think that
this
really,
also ties into the question of how you go to these
yeah,
things as a single person, which is to say,
that's what I was about to say. Yeah,
don't go alone, right? The fact that you're single doesn't mean you have to go alone. There's as we've said several times when people ask us about how to begin in these spaces, go with friends, go with people that you like, go with people who you feel safe with, go with low expectations, right? And I think all of that is just as true, even if you've been in a scene for a while, but always as part of a couple, and now you're trying to approach it as a single person. But I absolutely agree. I think the way back through is through these organizers. So you've already said you like and who you've already said have been like supportive of you and supportive of your presence there. And some of them probably miss you and would like to see you.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, I was about to say exactly the same thing, which is not being in a partner, not having being in a couple doesn't mean you can't go to these spaces or you have to go alone. Develop, this is one thing I think can be extremely positive about queer friendship groups is I have friends who I have seen fucking and who have seen me fucking, who maybe occasionally I have had sex with, or but not always. Like I just have friends who I'm comfortable enough in those situations to be able to go to places like that. And if you can develop those through meeting those people at the scene, which is usually the best place to meet someone who is also okay and comfortable with that, then you can have friendships that don't have to have any sexual basis at all, not even friends with benefits, but where being with each other in the presence of each other having sex or cruising is not strange or uncomfortable at all. And I think the best place to start that, or to find those friendships originally, is not to approach people who you are already friends with, but to make friends in those scenes. Now, obviously, this is like
Yes.
kind of like chicken and egg, because I'm saying, like go to those scenes with people who you're friends with and make those friends at those scenes. But apps could be interesting places to find those sort of people, and you go for a beer first or a drink or something, and try and find someone who you're kind of comfortable with, and make them your leather friend who you meet to go to leather bars with.
And here's my other piece of advice, and this involves like the expenditure of a lot of social energy. But if you really feel up for it, I think you could find it very rewarding. Um, my first piece of advice, the first segment of this advice, doesn't require a lot of social energy, and it's the following: don't use Grinder. Like if Grinder is giving you unsatisfying vanilla hookups, then don't look for something on Grinder you're unlikely to find there. If you live in a mid-sized city, there are likely to be other people on websites like Recon or FetLife, which are specifically for people who are into kink. And those are also often places that you can like meet other people who are interested in kink, who maybe aren't necessarily in these spaces, aren't necessarily in these places, aren't necessarily on your radar. Um, and my guess is that there are probably in a mid-sized city other trans and transmasc people who are potentially interested in these kinds of spaces and are not sure whether the spaces that exist are going to be inclusive of them, are going to be good places for them. And here's where maybe you can use the fact that you had this introduction to them to your advantage. If you meet a few other like trans people who are into leather and want to explore these places, you can be the person who like has that connection to the organizer who you met, or who knows someone, or who maybe can set up like an explicitly trans open night or a corner of a night at this bar. That's where there's kind of room to explore, room to start building your own community in these places. And I think the more that you do that, the less relevant the presence of the X will be. That being said, all of this takes on a completely different character if you're fearing for your physical or psychological safety when you're around your X. However, if that's true, then actually there should not be DOMs walking around in a good leather community who people whose X's are physically afraid of them, right? So if your X was in any way abusive, you also absolutely should be able to speak to event organizers about that, because that's something that a good kink event organizer is going to take very seriously. Because again, in any kind of power exchange situation, so much power is being exchanged that safety concerns, again, in a good environment, are being taken really, and in a sort of community environment, right, are being taken really seriously.
Let's hope that that wasn't the situation they found themselves in.
I hope that wasn't the situation they found themselves in as well. I'm just wondering about the extremeness of the, I don't want to be in the same room as this person. And I want to acknowledge that's a possibility and not just be Pollyanna-ish about, oh, just figure it out, get over it, blah, blah, blah. Like that's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am trying to encourage you to do is, if there is an extent to which you can build a community that makes your discomfort around your ex less relevant, and you're able to be in places that you obviously liked and that brought you sex you enjoyed, then I think that's a good thing.